Welcome to the second episode of this Fender Light series. Last time we did some engine adjustments and installed a new chassis. Today we'll install a more powerful ignition, and due to that we're able to mount a new working light with 12 volts. Oh, and there will be a new clutch as well.
For our project, we also want a reasonable ignition. We are going to use the Flytec from Pinasco with 12 volts. In the package are several parts. First, the ignition base plate and the flywheel. Then, as you can see here, we also have a spacer plate, which is optional. And actually you have to check with the old engines whether the spacer is required or not. If the ignition base plate is too low, you might want to use the spacer. This rises the base plate approximately 2 mm higher for better alignment with the magnets of the flywheel. Then here is a CDI, a bracket for the CDI. Additionally, a voltage regulator. And here is a pretty detailed instruction manual for the wiring. In principle, it is relatively simple to convert the Faro Basso to 12 volts. You just need the original wiring harness as described in the instruction manual with the cables of the ignition. We have in our case a Series Pro wiring harness from SIP. This way, things get even easier, since the harness is already made for the Flytec. What you should not forget is to change all the light bulbs to 12 volts, otherwise they will not survive.
With the Flytec ignition we now have 12 volt, and I of course took the opportunity to use a bright Bullock's halogen bulb to have reasonable light. Here you can also see again, all cables are beautiful and new. It's way easier with a new wiring harness, which saves you time and breaks down later.
Here we have our beautiful pull-in tool, which also has different adapter sizes for different crankshafts. So when you hit the hammer on the crankshaft, it can easily get damaged, or the seat of the rolling bearing gets damaged. So it's just more gentle and nice. We still make the aluminum warm. For our Fender Light Vespa project and the engine tuning, we want a reasonable clutch, so we are trying to install a Kosa clutch in this beautiful old Vespa. Unfortunately, this is not that easy, so we take as the basis the Kosa clutch with a SIP clutch basket, a very good alternative. It is more resistant than the original one and still inexpensive. This clutch is going to transmit more power than this engine will ever have. In our case, we can install the clutch already into the casing. That is because this nose here for the stud bolt has already been milled away. Approximately 3 mm must be removed. This is the clutch cover. Of course, it doesn't fit with our Kosa clutch. Therefore, that part of material here needs to be taken back or removed completely. That is where the milling traces are. There was more material before we took that aluminum material away. Then, there is still a problem with the height of the clutch, which is still touching the cover. Different things are now necessary for this. First, some engines have such a thicker washer under the clutch. If this is the case, change it to the much thinner one of the Vespa Sprint. You'll see the difference. If you use the thinner washer, the clutch gets more close to the crankshaft. Then, a spacer is used to set the clutch cover higher. This is installed between the clutch cover and the engine casing.
Dadurch gewinnt man weitere 1,5 mm.
this results in a further 1.5 millimeters. Now the clutch is more down and the cover is more up. Means I need to adjust this to be able to actuate the clutch. I have more space between the pushrod and the thrust plate. Is that the solution? For this I use the pushrod of the Vespa GS and use on the clutch the thrust plate of the Vespa PK XL2. The thrust plate consists of two pieces. I have already dismantled this, simply by moving the bearing from the plate. The thrust plate of the PK XL2 is complete round, while the Koza clutch has a flat part here, which prevents the plate from twisting. So I now grind material from the thrust plate, so it will fit into the clutch. These are all the actions that I carry out to fit the strong Koza clutch into the Vespa wide frame engine.
Okay, that was the second episode of We Tune a 50s Vespa into reliable modern vehicles that won't f**k up anymore. Next episode is about cylinder and carburetor. If you enjoyed this video, we'd very much appreciate the thumbs up, and if you want to see more videos like this one, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and activate the bell.